Hi, I'm Bridget Douglas and I'm Principal Flute of the NZSO. I'm going to talk to you today about being a team player in an orchestra. Being in an orchestra is a bit like being in a big sports team. You all have to communicate with each other and collaborate together to get a final great result, which in our case is not a big score but a wonderful musical experience for not only ourselves but for the audience out there. Some of you might think that being in an orchestra is you can sort of do your own thing and be a real star, but actually you need to bury your ego a lot of the time in an orchestra and really be a team player. You need to know when you've got a solo and when you don't have a solo, and sometimes I think it can be quite hard to decide when it's your time to shine and when it's your time to really be the support act. There's a lovely quote which I enjoy, which says that the ideal musical colleague is someone who inspires with musical leadership and assures with sensitive musical accompaniment, and I think that says it very nicely. So when you're preparing your music for an orchestral concert, it's really important that you listen to recordings, look at the score, and really have a good idea of exactly those solos and those accompanimental moments. It's also really good to be flexible with lots of things, particularly pitch. So you might have practiced your part perfectly with the tuner and know that you're absolutely in tune, but when it actually comes down to the rehearsal and the concert, you need to have a lot of flexibility to go with whoever's moment it is. So if it's not your big solo moment, you need to be the one that's doing the adjusting. That might be with volume, with intonation, with note endings, all of those things. They're all really crucial parts of being a good musical colleague and a sensitive musician. There's some other sort of little basic things that maybe it's good to remember. Obviously you need to always have prepared your part incredibly well. You are in no position to criticise anyone else's playing in the team if you don't know all the notes in your own part. So another way of saying sort of the same thing is that it's very important the way in which you communicate with your colleagues in an orchestra. You need to be sensitive to other people's personalities and their own musical interpretations, and offer any comments that you might have in a sensitive and constructive manner. You've got to really get on with your colleagues socially, I think, as well as musically, in order to really have an ideal musical experience. In an orchestra, the conductor is always right. The conductor is the boss, and even if you disagree with what the conductor's asking you to do, you really have to try your utmost to do the right thing by them. They have the musical plan, and they're the one that can hear the overall musical effect, and they're in control. The responsibility falls on the section principals for the standard of playing and the standard of musical ensemble in their own section. So if you're a section principal in an orchestra, particularly of a wind, a brass section, but actually it's just as applicable to the string section principals, you need to really be listening carefully to your section and helping them with that lovely constructive criticism about ways in which the section can do their best to be a better part of the overall ensemble. That might mean that you have to do some little sectionals together, perhaps in the tea breaks or in the lunch breaks, whenever you have time. Talk to your colleagues and say, look, this little bit here, I think we could sound better in this. Can we try this together? And it could be an ensemble issue, it could be a pitch issue, it could be all sorts of things come into play. But you need to take control of that rather than just expecting that everyone's going to be able to just instantly fix everything. Ideally, you don't want to use too much or too many physical gestures in the orchestra. I feel a little bit funny saying that because I know that I move quite a lot in the orchestra, but You don't want to have anything that's distracting for the audience or distracting for your colleagues. Foot tapping is an absolute no-no, and that goes for any musical performance, chamber music, solo. Foot tapping, it really distracts the audience and takes away from anything musically that you're saying. It's okay to move, for a wind player, to move the end of their instrument to help guide the section and to guide the players around them, perhaps at the beginnings and ends of phrases, for cutting off the note lengths, things like that. Things that just require a little bit more detail perhaps than what the conductor is able to offer. But hopefully, there should be no dancing on the chair or sort of too much swaying around. You've really got to respect the personal space of the players around you and not distract them from being able to do the best job they can possibly do. On that same note, don't ever turn around and look behind you mid-concert or mid-rehearsal to see who's playing what part, either good or bad. It's just a really insensitive musical thing to do. And having been subject to that myself over the years, I now have this little sort of gesture I do to the string players. And they don't do it anymore. It's great. But really, being in an orchestra is one of the most exciting and exhilarating things that you can do. So get out there, make the most of it, enjoy the incredible experience of playing in an orchestra.